Welcome back to Uncovering Your Inner Power, the podcast where we explore the tools, insights, and personal transformations that help us step into our fullest potential. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today's guest is someone who's played an important role in my own podcasting journey. For nearly a year, I've had the privilege of working with podcast coach Kim Parkinson of KP Creative Media. And I can honestly say she has been an incredible source of support, encouragement, and guidance every step of the way. One of the things I appreciate most about Kim is her nurturing approach. She has a unique ability to meet people where they are, helping them move through fears and uncertainties that often come with putting your voice out into the world. At the same time, she's exceptionally knowledgeable when it comes to the technical side of podcasting, audience growth, content strategy, and creating a show that truly serves its listeners. For many spiritual women, there's a deep calling to share their message, but knowing where to start or how to create something sustainable and impactful can feel overwhelming. Kim helps bridge that gap by empowering women to find their authentic voice while building podcasts that are both meaningful and viable. In today's conversation, we're diving into what it really takes to find your voice, overcome visibility fears, create content that resonates, and build a podcast that supports both your mission and your audience. So, grab a cup of tea, settle in, and join me as we uncover the power of using your voice to create meaningful change with the incredible podcast coach, Kim Parkinson. Kim, I want to thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule to connect with us today. I'm confident that we're going to light a few creative fires with this conversation.
Thank you so much, Jill, for having me on today. It is a pleasure of mine. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always been a pleasure of mine working with you. Kim, you've built your business around helping spiritual women amplify their voices through podcasting. What first drew you to this work, and why do you believe podcasting is such a powerful platform for women with transformational messages?
Yes. So, what originally drew me to this is I have always, one, loved music. So, I've always been an audio gal. And two, I owned a craft store in the 2012 to 2017, and I had my own TV show. So, I knew the production side of it. So, that was kind of meshed together in 2020 after I had worked in a corporate field for 3 years and hated working for somebody else, and decided I'm going to go into working for myself again. And it was just looking at my resume and saying, what are my strengths? What do I have? And realizing that I really loved audio, really loved podcasts. And then I expanded that to loving to help women with their podcasts, loving to help spiritual women with their podcasts. Every year just kind of got niched down, down, down. And the fun thing is that I've actually been helping women be confident with themselves for years. That's realistically what I was teaching even back in the craft store days and before that when I was teaching crafting, because I would just teach confidence. I would just instill confidence in women. And I really feel like that is part of the podcasting journey. You need to grow that confidence, grow that authority. And let's face it, nowadays, there's not as many mystery schools as there once was. There's not as many knitting circles as there once was. While some of those things are coming back, the ability to have this grow worldwide with your voice, with your knowledge, your authority, it's just something that it can't be ignored. It needs to be shared and it needs to be out there. And so spiritual women found me, although I already had a slew of crystals I was holding on to. But
Um,
I called them in. I called you in. Yes.
yeah, well, I'll just tell people how we met is I was having a meeting with one of my lenders and I was mentioning my podcast and how I was trying to grow it. And she said, "Oh, you need to speak to Kim Parkinson. I met her at a networking event and she coaches podcasting." I said, "Oh, great." And as I reached out to you, I realized not only were you a podcast coach, but you were a podcast coach for spiritual women, which was right up my alley. So I feel like the universe just connected us. And I've been thrilled ever since because, as you mentioned, you help women by nurturing them and nurturing their confidence and helping them to feel confident. And that's something that you've helped me learn through my journey up to this point. I remember when I first started, I mean, if you go back to my first few episodes, they're great topics, but they're not well produced. They're a starting point. And you have helped me build the confidence, the tools, and the wherewithal to deliver my message on a more higher level.
Well, thank you. Yes, and you've been doing amazing growing and growing that side of your business. I think there is a part of every woman, especially I think spiritual women, where they want to share. They want to put a spotlight or a highlight on other people. They want to do interviews. They want to lift up other women, but we forget to lift up ourselves. And that's one of the things that I really try to help my clients with is yes, you matter too. And let's get your voice out there. Let's get your product out there. Let's get your coaching out there and tell the world and be the authority in whatever it is that you want to teach. So, and you've been doing a great job. You've even recently been really getting to some really amazing milestones. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But many women feel called to share their message, but they're afraid of being seen. What do you think is the biggest obstacle that keeps women from starting a podcast?
I think right now people are really pushed to do video, really pushed. They feel that that is the thing that they have to do. And women in I'm going to say there are specific women our age, obviously not myself. I don't wear a stitch of makeup, but there are definitely women out there that feel like they have to have their hair perfect, they have to have their makeup done. And while video is absolutely a great way to go, it is definitely growing. You don't have to be there. You don't have to start there. And if all you can do is show up with your voice every week, that's really what matters. And that's going to still reach an audience. And so that's one hurdle that I've often had to help women get over in this space. Another is, what do I talk about? Like, who am I to be that authority on that? And another thing I have to just remind everyone is listen, unless you are, uh, maybe 6 years old and just learned how to talk, you have some life experiences. And so everybody's story is different. Everybody's way that they dealt with it is different. And there's got to be somebody that's going to connect with you somewhere out there because there's a connection. The universe doesn't just throw out people that don't have connections. And so we're finding those connections one voice at a time and hopefully connecting to whatever that next step is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know that myself, when I first started the podcast, I wanted to go into detail about some of the chapters of my book and explain them out and try to help people to overcome the victim mentality and the mindset. And of course, my book isn't a very long book, and I made it that way intentionally because I really wanted when people are looking for help, they're not looking for a big thick book like this, right? So I made it intentionally brief, but you only have so many chapters in a book. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, once the chapters of the book are done, what am I going to talk about? And what I found is that the universe always provides something. I'll be deep in meditation and something hits back in my brain. And I think I talked to you about this, that one episode that I did about the heart gut brain connection. That came to me in my meditation. I'm just in my meditation, and the universe sent me a hit and said, um, neurons, neurons, neurons. I'm like, what about neurons? Like, and then it said, you have neurons in your brain, but you also have neurons in your heart. I was like, yeah, I think that's true. And then I also heard, but you also have neurons in your gut. And so I did research on the heart brain gut connection and the neurons. And so that brought me into that episode. But I find that every week when I say to myself, what am I going to talk about this week? Something opens up, and I find that it's reaching people. And as the statistics show, all over the world, like I've seen people in the Philippines listening to my podcast, and some people in Germany, I think we found out. So how do you help someone discover their authentic voice instead of trying to sound like everyone else?
Yes. So first, I just want to say hello to those people in Germany and the Philippines, and thank you for listening.
Right?
It is really cool when you see those numbers from all across the world, and when you can see where that is. That's just a powerful piece to know that.
There were a few countries that I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, yeah. My podcast is really popular in Tanzania or Tanzania. I'm not even sure, but yeah, I'm always like, I gotta look that up, but I haven't yet. So, um, I I really feel like if someone has anything to say, okay, there's always going to be you're never going to go to dinner with a girlfriend and just sit there and just order the steak and fries and then be like, that was nice. You're always going to talk about something. There's always going to be something. There's a story that you need to share. There's a story she needs to share. It's going to go back and forth. And it's the same with podcasting. It's
Mm,
just that in a lot of times, it's just you talking to the microphone, but you've already had the conversations that week, right? Maybe you talked to a client, or maybe you did a meditation, or maybe you did some journaling and you realized, oh my, yeah, that needs to come up this week. That needs to be talked about. Those are the things that I encourage people to really look at. Especially like this week, I actually sent out a newsletter and it asked about hosting. And I got quite a bit of responses back, which then led me to say, I think I need to do an episode about this. So you never know where those episode idea topics can come from. Could be a client, could be just external people. It's just that spark. And that's what you have to capture is those sparks. I do recommend, like writing it down. If you're like us, you're like, oh yeah, menopause keeps our brain foggy. That's okay. But I do think that in many cases, we we remember the important things, and topics that really need to be discussed come forward. And if we need to say them, somebody out there needs to hear them.
you're absolutely right on that. And I find that life in and of itself delivers enough food for thought that I'm not sure now that I will run out of episodes and topics. And there's always something. And sometimes it's like you've told me, it's okay to go back and revisit a topic because
Yeah.
someone hasn't heard it, or there's another way to explain it, or something you can expand on it. So I'm finding all of that out from the work that we've done together. And just wondering, have you noticed any common fears among spiritual entrepreneurs when they first begin speaking publicly?
Yes. Yes, I have actually. I think the biggest one is, and this is crazy because it's the very first thing you do, it's introducing yourself in your show. They get stumbled over that more often than not. We are such, as women, as spiritual women, as just women in general, we're such nurturers and such givers that we often don't start the episode with, hello, this is Jill Ripley. We just don't do that. We just dive right in, and then it's like, oh, I got to go back and maybe you got to record that later, or maybe, you just missed it altogether. I think the other part to that also is asking your audience to do that next step. It's, again, I've heard a lot of people say they feel like asking them to join their newsletter even is salesy. But really, somebody is sitting there on the other end listening and like, how can I get a hold of this person? How can I get a hold of this person? I love what she has to say. What do I do? How can I do this? And if you haven't said, please reach out to me and give an email address or tell them where to get the newsletter or whatever it is, you're really almost doing them a disservice. And so it's a little bit of a mind shift to try to get these women, anybody, any woman, to understand and want to do that next step. So yeah, two bits, beginning and
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah. What I have found in my experience with podcasting is it's become a personal growth journey for me because when I put out an episode, I'm doing research, I'm learning along with the people that I'm teaching. So, how do you help women to understand that it's not just a podcast, but it's also a personal growth journey and not just a marketing tool?
There's a mix there, right? So my goal here is 90% of the time, just invite them to your newsletter because that's easy. That's an easy done. So, and it's not really salesy. It's just telling them where the next step is. The rest of it, if you are learning and you're moving along with them, and I do this too, right? I did an episode a little while back in March, and I did an episode on AI and how I use AI with my podcasting. And I really feel like this is new to me too, right? I'm over 50, so I did not grow up with AI, I didn't even grow up with a cell phone, as we know. So all of this is new. So I was learning as I go along. And what I do is I share what I've done and the mistakes I've made, and I share what's working for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but you can be like, oh, I didn't even think to click on that button, or whatever it might be. And so it's still service. It's still helping. And
Right.
that's where I feel like that's the connection that people want to have.
Yeah. How can hosts create episodes that leave listeners feeling seen, understood, and supported?
So I am a true believer that you should do many more solo episodes than interview episodes. Now, I do love to be a guest on podcasts, and I do love to have guests on my podcast. So I'm not saying never do that for sure. But what I'm saying is creating that 10, 15, 20-minute solo episode is actually one super empowering for you. Really, once you get over that hurdle, it really is super empowering. But it's also going to create that authority that your listeners are looking for. They're looking for somebody to tell them the next step. We have so many decisions every day, right? I don't even know, 27 million. I don't
A lot.
know. A lot. And so having that next step, that easy next step to do is almost refreshing. So if you can be the authority in that and just say, these are the things that you need to do, while it may not work for everyone, it will work for a majority of people. And it really does showcase you as that host, the authority person, and it empowers you to be like, I want to do more. I want to give more. I want to offer more. And that feels good. That feels really good. Do you
Yeah.
like it?
I love it. I Every time I look at the numbers and I see the episodes that are really growing and have a lot of likes, have a lot of engagement, it makes me feel gratified that I've helped somebody through something, right? We all have a voice, and some want to share their voice, and I've always been one that people have reached out to for advice. And like people will stop me in Walmart and ask me where to find whatever, like I work there, right? And so I've always been that helper, that nurturer. And to be able to do that on a larger scale like this is very gratifying.
Yeah. It's just amazing. I tell people, especially when you first get started, right? So podcasting is a long game. It's not necessarily, you hear about the Mel Robbins in the world and you hear about you know, Seth, whatever his name is. I don't follow him, obviously. But you hear about all these big name podcasters and they're like, oh, we got millions of downloads and all these sponsors and it's absolutely amazing. And that is not the norm. That is not what's normally happening. What normally happens in podcasting is you start off really slow. The first 25 episodes, my goal is to make sure that you have the same number of downloads as you do episodes. Realistically, up until like episode, like maybe even 75. If you have 75 downloads at episode 75, you're actually doing really well. If you have more, great. We love that. Absolutely. Our first benchmark goal is always 100 and then 150 and then beyond that, right? And then really, again, the whole idea is you probably aren't going to have a sponsor right away. Now, I do have a client and she got a sponsor before she even launched her podcast, but that is more unusual than it's usual.
Right.
Realistically, most of the time you are funding the podcast on your own. And then we are trying to find a way for listeners to get into your newsletter, into your programs, into whatever it is that you want to do. And that's when you're going to start really gaining traction on the money side of it.
Right. But I'll also add to that Mel Robbins and Seth, whoever it is that you're talking about, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. But she started somewhere and so did he, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how long it took them to get from, their first download to the type of downloads that they get now and the sponsors that they have. And
Yeah.
if it's, in my opinion, if it's more about service than it is about sales, you're going to move forward,
Mhm.
right? Whether it takes a long time or a short amount of time, it's a matter of consistency. It's a matter of, growth. Any kind of growth is positive. It doesn't have to be, and I know I've watched some things on YouTube that say, it could be 200 shows before you get any traction, which
Yeah.
I'm just coming up on the year, so I think I'm got great traction.
Me
Um,
too.
I'm enjoying it. But I'd like to know, what are some of the biggest mistakes that new podcasters make that lead to burnout?
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to call anybody out here, but
Hope it's not
recording
me.
this recording the episode the same week it goes out.
Oh, okay, that's me.
Well, I have to say, sometimes that's me too. I will honestly say, sometimes that is me too. I'm a huge proponent of batch recording, but when you leave it till the last minute, that is when you're like working the midnight oil, and that's when it becomes no longer fun, right? So you
Right,
don't want that.
right,
So that's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes is, and maybe it's not necessarily a mistake, as you just never know what's going to happen, right?
right,
Like you could have this, like, I'm going to do, I already know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to hit record. I'm going to record it. And then you have like a storm happens and there's an outage and you can't edit it, you can't upload it and all of that. And then you're like, you know, some people really freak out about that. Like I always send out my my podcast at um, Tuesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern time. I, I was inadvertently saying newsletter because I never send out my newsletter on the same time. So maybe that was the universe kind of saying, "Oh yes, Kim, you're talking about the newsletter."
That needs to be
But
scheduled too.
yes, exactly, exactly. But I do feel like that's one of the pieces of it, right? Is not having some things in the bank.
Yeah.
And by the bank, it could just be topics, could be podcast topics. Maybe you don't have any podcast topics in the bank. Maybe you haven't recorded something and it's not in the bank. Maybe you haven't edited something and it's not in the bank. It could be all three. It could be one of those pieces. But if you're finding that it is no longer fun because you're doing it last minute, shorten your episodes. They don't have to be an hour long each. Just do 10, 15-minute episodes, especially if they're solos. And then use that hour that you normally would to get caught up a little bit. Maybe do 2 episodes, edit both of them, get them all done. And so you at least have something in the event the pollen's really thick and you have a cough, or, you decided somebody gave you $1 million and you decided you were going to go to, Aruba for the weekend. I don't know. That'd be nice.
I know for myself in the beginning, I was instructed that you should have at least 4 episodes in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And I did that in the beginning. And as time grew on, because I do research all my episodes and what I talk about, it takes me time, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm also a realtor, so I'm busy doing business. And so I have found that right now I've used up my bank. And so I am putting out an episode per week with nothing in the bank. So I'd like to get to that point where I've got some scheduled to go out, but I'm still enjoying it, and it is what it is, right? I'm just going
You
to trust
know,
the universe to give me the topics and keep moving on it.
and you are a little bit more lenient on yourself when you send it out. You're not, so I'm very like strict. Like in my head, I don't know what kind of personality this is, but in my head, it has to go out Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern time. There's no, like, if it doesn't make it by that time, that I have like failed myself. That is a personal imposition that I have put on me, myself, and all three of us. And I don't see that from you. You are a little bit more like, okay, if it goes out on Tuesday, great. If it or Monday, great. If it goes out Tuesday, great. And that's okay. That's great. I am just a little bit more.
Well, I think
Uh,
my podcast goes out every Monday on streaming, on the podcast streamings. I'm a little more lenient when I put them out on YouTube, but I'm always caught up enough that one will go out every Monday on the podcast streaming services.
yeah.
But so how can someone stay consistent when life gets busy and motivation fluctuates?
I think this is a matter of a little bit of timing, right? So if you are finding that you are behind, or and hate to say this because realistically, I don't when I talk to you, I don't feel the pressure that I normally would feel for myself being behind. But I don't feel that from you. So I think that this is probably a moot point for you, but definitely one for myself. If I find that I have not recorded Tuesday's episode by Monday afternoon, then I'm not leaving this room until it's done. So what I end up doing is I will probably record 2 or 3 of them right away. And the other thing that I do is I also record other types of episodes. So not just interview episodes, because those are great, right? They're great, but they're, again, not necessarily authority building. But I also record case studies with clients, current clients, past clients, so that I'm still the authority, but they're kind of getting their information out there. And then I also do coaching style episodes. And those are where I haven't just invited somebody on that isn't a client, and I give them some information about their podcast that is just a couple of steps they can do to maybe get seen a little bit more, get visible a little bit more. And so those different types of podcast episodes is really what helps me stay more aligned, because I can actually record a coaching, a case study, or an interview and have those. And I did an interview actually earlier today, and I said to her, this is not going to go out until probably end of July, beginning of August, just letting you know, because I have enough in the bank right now. I don't have any solos. So I just want to tell you that. I'll be completely honest with you. But I do have 3 case studies and 2 podcast interviews in the bank. So at least I have something. I feel a little bit more happy with that. Yeah.
Now, how do you blend strategy with intuition when helping spiritual women grow their podcasts?
Ooh, that is an intimate that is an intimate hit. Yeah, that is I was gonna not say that word, but it came out anyway. That is and it is a hit that I get, that I can look at your podcast and be like, listen, the keywords here are not what you're talking about. You can have an amazing podcast, but if it's called like The Amanda Show, and nobody knows who Amanda is, nobody's going to listen to the Amanda Show unless you are really doing all of the heavy lifting, getting that out there with maybe an amazing newsletter list, maybe an amazing Instagram. But what I tell them, I can immediately see it and say, are you getting downloads with that? Because that name does not invoke into me what you're talking about and who you're talking to. And we usually start there. And that's just immediate. It comes right to me. Whether or not that's training or my intuition. I'm also a Scorpio, so I'm very intuitive. Human design projector. So, yeah, I can see a lot of things that maybe other people don't see. So, I have a lot of great things there going for me. So, it could be that too. It could just be my design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be. Have you seen podcasting women step more fully into their purpose or calling?
Yes, especially lately, I've seen a lot more spiritual women wanting to share their stories, wanting to get their modalities out. I talked to somebody more recently, and there's like, I've never heard of this modality. And so I immediately said, hey, I'm in, I'm all in. And so it was a local woman, and she did emotion code on me. And I was like, this is fascinating. How many people in the world actually know how to do this or what it is? And so there's just so many different directions that we can go, that we can talk about, that we can showcase to people. And the more that we get that out there, the more that people in the world can heal,
Mm.
right? This is not, I'm going to get this wrong. Please let me know. This is not Western medicine. It's Eastern medicine. Is that right? Is that the right direction? This is not like going to the doctor today. This is like internal healing, deep internal listening to ourselves,
So
listening
the
to
deep
the
internal is
world.
Eastern, Western is what the United States is.
Yes. Okay. I knew I was going to get it wrong, but
It's
so
fine.
yes.
I just want to clarify for the listeners.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Western medicine is more big pharma and uh, lack of body intuition and natural healing, and Eastern is more with the
Yeah.
body energies and
And I see
is
more people going in that direction, right?
right.
More people are like, this Western US medicine is for the birds. Well, actually not even for the birds. It's worse than the birds. As a bird lover that I am. But I really, like, I'm Reiki 1 certified. I go and get my flower essences done on a regular basis. I will get my tarot cards read. I read an oracle card every week. I am very attuned. Like, even I got some blood work done. You got to check the regular stuff anyway. And I have a giant bruise, and I'm putting that Arcana oil on it, or gel on it, because I'm like, I want to stay natural. I want to stay holistic. I want to stay
Right.
more, I even go to the local farm and buy goat milk lotion, because I'm not using whatever they get at CVS. I'm very, like, I really feel, and I feel like that's the world is moving in that direction as well.
Right.
And
Well,
so, if you have a modality or something like that that you talk about, that you know, that you learn, you need to share it
Right,
because some of us don't know what it's about. Some of us don't
right.
have any idea, and we need to know.
I totally agree. Now, if listeners could take away just one message from today's conversation about finding their voice and sharing it with the world, what would you want that message to be?
I have a tagline at the end of every single episode that I do, and that is where your voice flows, your business grows. And this is true even if it isn't a business. It's also true internally for yourself. So if you can get your voice out there to the world, you're going to grow yourself and you're going to grow a number of people that you don't even know. You're going to touch lives that you didn't ever realize you could touch. And that is universally powerful.
I agree with that. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Uncovering Your Inner Power. I hope today's conversation inspired you to trust your voice a little more, take action on the ideas that have been stirring within you, and remember that the people who need your message can't benefit from it if you keep it hidden. A heartfelt thank you to Kim Parkinson for sharing her wisdom and experience and encouragement with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message. And if you'd like to stay connected and be the first to know about upcoming episodes, special guests, insights, and resources, I'd love to invite you to join my newsletter community. You can sign up using the link in the show notes. It's the best way to stay informed about what's coming next and continue your journey of personal growth, healing, and empowerment together. Until next time, remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and the power you've been searching for has been within you all along. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.